welcome to the Tunnel Podcast. England have done it. They are in a semi-final yet again. Delighted to say joining me in the Tunnel tonight is one man that's not been this excited for a semi since the Championship playoffs last year, Tom?
Correct, yes, mate.
Absolutely. You're wondering where I was going with that, weren't you?
I was wondering, yeah.
And the most talked about female podcaster in British football at the minute, it's Zara Mayy Rose. How are you doing, all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Lucky to have me here. So,
listen, look, Tom, by the sound of it, the carnage he's had before he's come on there, cleaning up the dog's spaghetti, but won't get into that too much. Okay, then, listen, we've had quite the weekend. The football's not been free-flowing as we'd hoped, but certainly in terms of results, we now know we've got our semi-finals. So tomorrow night, Spain will play France. And then on Wednesday, England will take on the Dutch. I was going to go to Tom, but he's a spinning wheel at the minute, so he's come back. He's back. He's look, his hands on head. Yeah. So I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
It's all right. Listen, this is what live broadcasting is all about. So just saying that we know the semi-finals now. It's Spain and France, and England obviously versus the Dutch. If we can go back in terms of the England game itself, I think, it was the worst kept secret in European football that Gareth was going to make the changes in terms of shape, maybe not personnel, and we see him go with the 3-5-2, 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it. What did you think, Tom, when the lines broke? Were you happy to see that he changed the shape?
Yeah, I was really happy. The podcast I did last with you guys, and after the Slovakia game, I was having a bit of a rant, and I was absolutely adamant that he wasn't gonna mix things up. So he made me look a bit silly, Southgate. But I didn't care. I was really pleased that he was going to try and do something different. I think we were having a chat, weren't we? I think I said that. Yeah, I think the 3-4-2-1 formation would better suit some of those players, that he's been starting game after game. I think, that system would better suit some of those guys. So, I was pleased to see that he was going to mix things up and try something different, because, that's been my biggest gripe, with Southgate throughout the tournament so far, is that he's just not changed things and tried different approaches, tactics, personnel, etc. He just hasn't mixed it up enough, when we've been on the back foot. So I was pleasantly surprised, really pleased when I saw that he was going to change the formation.
Zara, we sort of saw in the first half, maybe the teams sort of cancel each other out in terms of shape. Not an awful lot of chances. In fact, we had to wait until the second half to see our first shot on goal.
Yeah, see, I was first of all, I was really happy to see the formation change as well. I think, me and Tom are both crying out for it for weeks on here, and everyone across the country. So, but yeah, no, it was a pleasant change to see, and it was more positive. I'd say the performance in the team was more positive throughout the game, which is what we all just wanted to see as well. Just that pace and getting that build-up play going. I'm really happy to see it. So I'm just seeing Tom on a spinning wheel again.
He's not going to last, is he? He's not going to last.
No.
I'll come back to you then. Just on obviously, the big swap was, you'd called it last week, was Consad came in. I thought he acquitted himself quite well. Seen what he'd done for Villa throughout the season. He's quite versatile as well, but he seemed to handle Mbolo really well in that first half. Got touched tight a few times and sort of stifled out a couple of precarious positions early on in the game.
Yeah, so I was really impressed with him because Gay's been quite a standout player, I think, for England throughout the games, and it's big boots to fill as well. So it's not easy. So for him to come in and he's flawlessly almost got into that role, and he reads the game really well. Welcome back, Tom.
I'll switch to my phone now. I don't know what is going on with my laptop. So if the phone cuts out, then guys, I'm not coming back. I'm just gonna have to give up. I think throw the towel in. Sorry, guys.
You're all good.
It's all right.
But yeah, no, Konsa was really great. He read the game really well. He made very important blocks, very important tackles. So yeah, no, I was really impressed with him. And again, it just proves that we have got that quality on the bench. So even if when Gay does come back, if we do need to rotate players, we've got those options.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. And that's we're just talking there about the change for Gay. He obviously had to miss out through suspension. He'll be back in contention, I'd imagine, for Wednesday night. But he's conscious giving the manager something to think about, because as we said there, played really well. Maybe a question mark at the first goal for losing in Doy, but other than that, no real sort of standout moments of concern.
Yeah, definitely. I was really impressed with Concert, to be honest. He's one of those players. I know he played well for Aston Villa last season. Villa had a tremendous season. But yeah, in terms of whether he was, capable of making a step up, on the international stage, I was a bit unsure. But yeah, he proved me wrong. I thought he was fantastic. I think he was arguably our best player. Like you said, there was a couple of mistakes, but yeah, I think overall he put in a really solid performance. And yeah, again, look, I know I've been on Southgate's back and the team's back, the majority of the time on these podcasts. But I think, big plus point, and it's something that hasn't really, I don't think, been spoken about enough. I don't think after the game at the weekend is that the Swiss. I thought the Swiss were going to pose us more problems. I genuinely thought that they were going to be a bigger threat. They were going to create more chances. They were really going to test us. But I think that's testament to how well we played defensively again. That we pretty much nullified them. They created very little, and Konsa was a big part of that in that back 3/5. I thought the defence were fantastic once again, and. Yeah, it's big decision now for Southgate, because I don't know, what do you do? Konsa, off the back of that performance, he deserves to keep his spot. But Gay was probably our best player prior to him getting that booking and becoming suspended. So yeah, real tough one. I'm not sure which way he's going to go, to be honest with you.
It'll be the opposite way that you think, because that's what he's done. We'll see which way until now. Okay, then, if we can sort of go into the game itself, obviously, Switzerland go ahead, and you must have been torn in two, Zara, because Shah was having the game of his life. He was playing really, really well. Seemed to be every good ball coming into the box was coming down that right-hand side from him. So, yeah, he gets in a great position. It's a cute little pass into Ndoye, and as I say, Konsa sort of maybe lost him for a moment. The ball comes in, it's a deflection from Stones, and Walker doesn't know where Mbolo is at this point, and it's an easy sort of knock-in for the big striker. At that point, alarm bells are ringing.
Yeah, see, I knew that. Obviously, watching Newcastle religiously, I know how much of a threat Shah can be. He's one of my favourite defenders, I think, of all time, because he can read the game really well. He honestly, like, you search up Shah goals on YouTube and he shoots from outside of the box so flawlessly. He's a real threat. So I knew that us going into that game, I knew he was going to play extremely well. Would have been nice to see all three Newcastle players playing that game, but we won't go into that. But yeah, no, he was a real threat. I think for us.
Do you think, Tom, as well, that Zara talks there about Shah obviously playing in advanced positions? You said there about Switzerland not causing England too many problems until they made those changes second half. Do you feel that they showed England too much respect at the start of the game?
Possibly. It's a tough one, isn't it, to kind of in terms of the reason behind it. I don't know. Like I said, I was just surprised because we've been waxing lyrical, haven't we, about the Swiss? They've surprised a lot of people just how good they've been, how well organised, how well drilled they've been, but also posing a threat in the final third. And yeah, I was definitely a little bit surprised how little a threat they offered. But again, I think that's testament to to England and the new formation, I just think we looked, like Zara said at the start, I'm thinking positives on this podcast. I've been doing a lot of moaning and groaning, but I just think the new formation, you'll probably delve into kind of individuals who didn't perform well, but I just think on the whole, as a unit, we just looked a lot more comfortable. I know, again, we were struggling a little bit in the final third, but I just felt in midfield, in defence, they looked a lot more comfortable, those guys that started and played there. And like I said, I just think they did a really good job of just nullifying that Switzerland threat. I was impressed with Shaw. I think he was their best player, to be honest with you. The dangerous moments that they did have were coming down the right-hand side. And, he obviously he played a key role in their opening goal. And he was getting stuck in one. He got a yellow card. And, he was well up for it. And I was really impressed with him, to be honest with you. But, I think the Swiss... they might be kicking themselves a little bit that, they didn't go at us a little bit more. But again, on the just flipping that, I think part of that is to how we set up for this game and how that formation then better suited, the players in the team.
Listen, I won't be beaten with the same stick as Gareth Southgate. I seen we had problems early on. I've drafted a sub in. I'm delighted to say Connor's going to jump on and help us out. I'm going to do a wee bit of a reshuffle with my formation. There we go. We'll put the Magpies at the bottom. Connor, delighted you could come on because we've had a bit of a technical nightmare. As you can see, Tom's joining us via his Tamagotchi. We've managed to get you on as well. Thanks for coming on, mate. An impartial, I would like to say, but I know you're probably going to hammer England throughout the next 20 or so minutes. So we've just been talking there about the Swiss. And obviously, we've gone up to the point of 1-0. I was just saying to Tom, did the Swiss maybe show England too much respect up until they made those changes?
I think they did. Aye. Obviously, you'd made that point in the WhatsApp and stuff, and I think it was right. I think the Swiss are a far better attacking team than they showed for a lot of that game. And the goal they got demonstrated the qualities they do have up front. They are a threat when they actually go for it and they unleash themselves. And I think I understand why the Swiss approached it the way they did, because, people can look at the Italy game and say, well, I bet them 2-0, they should be confident. But England are a better side than Italy, and the attacking threats that England posed, they didn't want to leave the opportunities there for a Jude Bellingham or a Harry Kane to go and catch them on counter-attack. So they were kind of, I think, overly cautious in the approach. And then even when they got in front, I was kind of expecting that they would maybe be a bit more sort of aggressive in defending that lead and kind of learn some of the lessons for what Slovakia did, because the one thing Slovakia did was they dropped far too deep and allowed England to just keep pressing and pressing. And listen, the quality England have got, even not at their best day, a Jude Bellingham can always walk up with a moment of magic like that, just as Saka did against Switzerland. So I think, from their point of view, if they had their time again, they'd maybe approach it a little bit differently. Unfortunately for England, Gareth Southgate never tends to.
There we go. He gave you so much praise and then we jab right at the end. Zara, Connor mentions Saka, and I have to say, thought it was the best we've seen from him in the tournament, and I don't know whether that's comes down to where he was played positionally or he was given sort of a bit more license, but he cuts in, fires that shot into the low corner. It's a great goal at the right time for England.
Yeah, see, when you think back to the last Euros and everything that he went through afterwards, you can't help but feel so happy that he has just excelled in this game. The way we've seen how he plays at Arsenal. We know he's got that quality. We know he can be a real threat. So Gareth, he's got all of these players, he's got all of these star players. It's just how you get the best out of them. And he really got the best out of Saka on that game, even down to the penalties, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit. But you just can't help but feel so happy for him. He holds that winger position, position excellent. He holds his width. He's fantastic, and he was winning all these 1v1s as well. So yeah, definitely player of the match, 100%.
Yeah, listen, as you mentioned, redemption for 2021. I think there was a tweet or a post from Jadon Sancho in the aftermath, just sort of thanking him and saying he'd done that for him and Rashford. I'm sure also doing it for England and his country as well, and at the bargain. Okay, then, if we can sort of move on to the subs. We've talked about subs to the back teeth since this podcast started, Tom. And we have to say, I thought the sub to speak about it in this one was actually Luke Shaw, a man who we've been sort of speaking about, is he going to play, is he not going to play, why is he there, why is he taking him? I thought when he came on, he showed a really good account of himself.
Yeah, he did, mate. It was a bit like that Ian Wright meme, wasn't it, where he's like, I thought you were dead. Like, he came on and it was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, what's going on? Who's this? Like, Luke Shaw, what's going on here? So, yeah, look, I want to just take a little step back, though, mate, with the subs again. I was like, well, you know what I was saying in the chat, in that, the Swiss made their substitutions at the right time. They were proactive substitutions. The game had got a little bit stagnant, a little bit flat. But the Swiss manager, he was brave, made some kind of attacking substitutions, freshened things up. And not long after, they got the goal. And I just found it absolutely hilarious that as soon as the Swiss scored, it panned to Southgate and he was calling the subs. He was calling him over, going, come on then, let's go now. And it was just, I can't remember who was commentating along Shearer, but they summed it up perfectly. They said, this is the big problem with Southgate, and the criticism that a lot of people have with him. It's that his changes are always reactive changes and never proactive changes. He always waits for something to go wrong, to go a goal behind, or for a team to get back on level terms with us or something, and then he'll make the changes instead of just going, it's flat, I'm going to freshen things up now, I'm going to do something proactive and take the game by the scruff of the neck. It's always a little bit too late, and again, those substitutions, they turn the game in our favour. Them scoring that opening goal, it forced his hand. He made the substitutions, and instantly, we looked better. And yeah, one of those was Luke Shaw, and yeah, it was really good to see because he looked, I thought he looked sharp as well. You got to take him a little pinch. Yeah, you got to take him a pinch of salt, obviously, because he came on and he played the last kind of. We played obviously extra time. Did he play about 15 minutes at the 90 as well?
Comes on at 78, yeah.
Yeah, so it was good to see, and it just instantly offered much better balance on the pitch. I thought Trippier did quite well. Again at the start when I saw he was still out on the left, I was thinking, oh God. But the kind of wing back five in defence seemed to suit him better, and I thought he put in a decent game, Trippier. But yeah, sure, he's just he's left-footed. That in itself just instantly just gives better balance, and he looked really good when he came on. So yeah, I'm hoping that he's fit and ready to go in the next game. I really am, because I just think
you'd start him in the next game.
Well, you don't know what with Southgate, there's just a feeling that he threw him on. It was just kind of last roll of the dice, wasn't it? He was throwing everyone on to try and make something happen. And then obviously Saka got the goal, and those guys are on the pitch, under different circumstances would sure have come on. I don't know, is he ready? But even if he's like 80%, 75% fit, mate, I think he's got to start, because I just think we've been so poor down that left-hand side just because we haven't had a natural left-footed, player down there. And then the cameo Shaw made, it just showed you how important it is to have natural left-footed player on the left.
Balance and just substitutions, what Zara mentioned I think last week as well. So I'll come on to you, Connor, actually, because the subs do, as Tom says, have an influence in the game. We're going to extra time, and England starting to actually create some chances. Declan Rice has a shot that's sort of well saved by Sommer. I think Bellingham has one as well. There seemed to be just a little bit more invention, and also I think what's really, really important for England is they moved the ball a lot quicker.
Yeah, they did. And it was causing problems for Switzerland. I think one of the problems for me, particularly in the the opening 90 minutes of the game. A major problem was everything seemed to slow down very quickly once they got into the final third. There was some good play knocking about in the midfield and coming out through the back, but once it got up front, it seemed to slow down. And then, for whatever reason, Harry Kane is not playing well in this tournament. He hasn't hit the heights that we've seen him do in the past in an England jersey. And he's part of the problem with why it's slowing down, because he's not making those creative runs. He's not coming for anything. He's waiting, and I made this point, he is waiting for the ball to come to him. He's waiting for something to drop to him so he can tuck it home, a bit like he did in the Slovakia game, where it sort of fell kindly for him and he finished it off, which he'll always do in that position. He will finish it. And that's a problem for me. You need him to be a bit more aggressive in how he's trying to play, because when they are getting forward, there's nobody in the box, really. There's no option for them to try and pick out, because Kane likes to sit in front of the defender rather than trying to tuck in behind, and that's created the issue. I will say, putting my Geordie cap on, if you want a guy who can unlock defences for you and who can speed things up going forward, you got Anthony Gordon sitting on the bench. That's exactly what he does for Newcastle. He's one of the best players we've got for doing that, and he can make mazy runs by himself, and then he's got a great finish to unlock the defence. He can supply very well as well. So I don't know why Southgate isn't playing him. I don't know if he's kicked his cat or something and he just doesn't like him, but for whatever reason, he doesn't seem to be interested, and it's, as a Newcastle fan, frustrating.
Don't get Zara going on Gordon, mate, honestly. Don't get her going.
What's the point going on the bench and not using it? The guy could have played for Scotland, you know what I mean? And he chose to go down the route of England, understandably. They are a better country, footballing-wise. But, I think things like that are frustrating because he's got a wealth of talent at his disposal. He doesn't have to stick with an out-of-form Harry Kane or a Phil Foden who's not really clicking either. He can make those changes and it wouldn't weaken the side. It would probably strengthen it. So why he doesn't do that, I don't know. And the word of caution would be he is not going to get that lucky against the Dutch. If the Dutch get themselves in front in that game, they won't just sit back deep, because the difference is they'll feel England is a game that they can win. They'll feel there's every chance this is a 50-50 contest. So they're not just going to score, go 1-0 up and then go, right, we'll sit back and defend. So he's got to try and come up with something different when he's playing them.
Absolutely, and we'll come on to the Dutch in good time. Zara, if I can, you spoke about Saka earlier, saying he was a worthy man of the match. Got some stats here, obviously 100% dribble success rate, best on the pitch, 9 out of 13 duels won, best on the pitch, 4 out of 4 dribbles completed, best on the pitch, 9 crosses, best on the pitch. You can get the theme here. 3 out of 4 tackles won, 3 shots, 2 chances created, and obviously 1 goal. Stark contrast to one Phil Foden. He didn't failed to have a shot at goal, failed to register assist. He didn't create a single chance and lost the ball 19 times. It's just not happening for Phil Foden for one reason or another. And just Connor's made a great case in point there. There are options on the bench.
Like Gordon, yeah. But you said it best, Connor, so I won't go into it. But yeah, no. Again, this formation, we were able to see that players like Saka, who were able to absolutely shine, it got the best out of him, the best of his qualities were showcased during that match. For players like Phil Foden, again, it kind of shocked me a little bit that though he didn't have a good performance as he did, because he had a lot of space during that game as well. So I'm not quite sure why he wasn't, running in or like getting as good of a performance out of him as Saka was. Not sure, but again, that's something that Southgate needs to look at and think, okay, now it is time for a change, not just have these, like Tom said, like reactive changes, because it's just not good enough. It has you shouting at the TV almost when it's getting to the like the 70th minute and there's the Swiss making the changes and we're just sort of sat there, and we only make these changes when we're 1-0 down, which again it's just not good enough, especially when you've got quality on the bench. it just doesn't make sense.
Tom, you were poised and ready to come in there. I don't know if you're holding off, but just on Foden and Kane in particular, they both obviously get taken off before the penalties come on. You know, we'll talk about the penalty takers and you know how good that was for England. You know, given the past history, but these two players in particular, you know, massive reputations. Certainly one of them, and Harry Kane, like Connor was saying there, doesn't look fit. We've heard that I think he missed the last 6 weeks with a back injury at Bayern that sort of maybe needs some attention. You can see that, and he's playing out. It's very evident. Foden, I don't know if he's injury related, but certainly looks off it as well.
Yes, mate. I think I tweeted yesterday. He's got to change. He's got to change those two for the next game, and I think he's got to bring in. You know, with the formation he's now playing, he's got to go with Tony up top and Palmer for Foden, because those two, you know, whenever they've come on the pitch, they've caused problems. And look, yeah, you got to take a little pinch of salt, because you know substitutes coming on later in the game. You know, you're coming up against a defence who's maybe a little bit tired. You know, opposition that's a little bit tired. But I do genuinely believe that if, you know, in the next game, if we're to start Tony instead of Kane and Palmer instead of Foden in that formation, you know, I think we'll see a big improvement. Like you said, for whatever reason, Kane just doesn't look at it at all. You know, he just looks completely off it. I was watching something today, and like it showed you Akanji. You know, he was just in Akanji's pocket the whole game. You know, I don't even think Akanji was trying that hard. You know, I was kind of secretly hoping, you know, he's still in his back pocket on the plane back to Switzerland. You know, but just on that, does that then suggest that Virgil van Dijk's going to have an even easier game if he comes up? Mate, if Harry Kane plays, if Harry Kane starts, then Van Dijk, yeah, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be simple for him. You know, this is the worry I have now, mate. Is that like it's just, you know, there's definitely positives to take from that last performance. You know, like I said earlier on in the pod, I think the formation, you know, we look better in that formation. Certain players look, you know, much better playing in that system. But now, you know, the thing now, and it's not just us guys on here. You know, I've been seeing it throughout, you know, social media today. It's just everyone's saying the same thing now, that Southgate's just got to have the balls to drop Kane and to drop Foden as well, because they're just not performing. They haven't performed at all throughout this tournament, you know, and it's, you know, the semi-finals now against a top team, you know, the Dutch. They've got some, you know, great players within their ranks. Like you said, Virgil van Dijk, arguably the best centre-back in the world. You know, I just feel like you can't keep, you know, they can't keep being passengers in games. You know, he's got to step up now, Southgate, and make the right call, you know, for the moment. And this is the fear I've had. And I said it right at the start, didn't I, before a ball was kicked. You know, one of the biggest worries I've had with Southgate is that he hasn't got the bottle to drop the big guys. He hasn't got the bottle to drop the big guys if they're underperforming. And, you know, and he's proven me right all the way through it. And again, you know, I made a bet in the last pod, but I'm very, very confident that he won't drop Kane. I don't think he'll drop Foden now, but I can guarantee you now he will not drop Kane. And, you know, and it's gonna cost. I hope it doesn't, but I just feel like, I think Connor touched on it. You know, the Dutch, easily the strongest team we've played. You know, semi-finals. You know, we've rode our luck, haven't we? I don't think anyone out there would disagree that, you know, we've rode our luck. That's my dog's kicking off now, just to add to everything else tonight.
He's going to have a nervous breakdown after this.
Mate, I am, honestly. But yeah, I just think my train of thought's just gone completely now. Yeah. Kane and Foden, for me, they've got to be replaced in the next match, you know. And like Zara touched on, so many options on that bench, and guys that have come on and proven, you know, that they can cause a threat, that they can make something happen, you know. But I'm not confident he'll do it, you know. I don't think he will.
Tom's dogs, ironically, are called Harry and Phil. Constance, believe it or not. Connor, I'll come to you then, just on the penalty takers, because these two are going to be blowing smoke up the players' bahookies, for want of a better word. You must have obviously been sitting there. I know part of you would have been thinking, you know, it's going to be heartbreak for England again. They're no good at penalty shooters, but you've got to say 5 out of 5. Cole Palmer especially sets the tone with the first one.
Yeah, he did. To be fair, I actually didn't have that many concerns at all because I was looking at who's going to take the penalties, and most of them are penalty takers for their clubs. That's something that England probably haven't had in previous penalty shootouts where they have gone out. That it's not always been the natural penalty takers that they've had, and with that's exactly what they had there. Palmer takes them for Chelsea. Saka, more often than not, will take them for Arsenal. Tony, he's got a superb record with Brentford. In fact, I think, if memory serves, just about the only penalty he missed was when Nick Pope saved for Newcastle last season. That's how good his record is. So in that aspect, I thought, I think they'll be fine. Where I thought it might get tricky is if it went further in. I didn't know what the Swiss penalty takers were going to look like. Obviously, Akanji stepping up first and missing. Centre backs taking your first penalty, that's always a risk. Although Fabian Schär slotted home quite nicely for them, but I think in that aspect, I sort of expected them to win. Plus, listen, I've told you before, I'm a goalkeeper. I like to see my goalkeepers do well, do their jobs, and might want to cut this because it's probably the only time you'll hear me praising a Mackham, but Jordan Pickford, I thought, played the game very, very well. I thought his mind games, particularly with Akanji for that first one, did exactly what you need to do as a goalkeeper, because you're always at a disadvantage. The striker knows which way he's going to go. You don't. You are making an educated guess. Obviously, he's got it written in the back of his bottle as well. So to play the mind game and make the striker wait as long as possible, I think is very good. And then, it wasn't a great penalty, but it was a decent save. And for me, that set the tone. Once Switzerland missed the first penalty, I was more than confident England were going to go and slot home the remaining ones. To be fair, though, I thought Trent Alexander-Arnold, to step up, that pressure on your shoulders, knowing what's happened before to England players in penalty shootouts, and rattle that into the top bin is quite incredible, especially when he'd only had a couple of minutes in the park as well in extra time. So, as much as it might be slightly through gritted teeth being Scottish, you've got to give them all the credit under the sun. They've been great. And to be fair as well, just a word of optimism for England. Portugal won the Euros in 2016 via drawing every game in 90 minutes, bar, I think, one game that they managed to win. England are on course to do the same because in 90 minutes, England have only won one game. That was the first game. Every game since has been a draw. So it can happen.
We're going to be renaming this pod Away the Lads next week, the way it's going. Zara Mayy, I'll come to you then, just on the penalty takers, if I may. Ivan Toney. Everyone goes on about Cole Palmer or Cold Palmer in these situations, but Ivan Toney, just the absolute gall to not even look at the ball and slot that home the way he did, just proves that he's got the mentality for these big occasions.
Yeah, he was like, if they say Palmer was cold, like Toney was ice cold, like that was mental. But again, it just shows that's the confidence that we need in this team. That's the sort of mentality that we need. And, like Tom touched on, Kane isn't good enough at the minute. He's not good enough to start. His performance is really poor. And then you have like Toney, who is when every time he's come on for Kane, he has stepped up. And I think it's that confidence changed. Toney just goes for it. And again, that showed in his penalty. He's so confident. That's what we need. That's what we need for sure.
Do you think Ivan Toney would give Virgil van Dijk a better sort of run for his money, as it were, in this one?
Oh, absolutely, because he's got the pace. That's the thing. Kane is so slow. Kane just doesn't look up for it. He looks like really lackluster. Like trying to think of the word, but yeah, he easily Van Dijk would have him.
Very lethargic.
That's it. That's the word. That's the word. He looks very lethargic. We need someone like Ivan Toney who's gonna give Van Dijk a run for his money for sure.
Interesting, obviously, that Ollie Watkins came on in that was at the second game and sort of showed a bit of promise when he came on, and then now Toney looks like he's got the jersey and he could be the one pushing for the start. Tom, I'll come to you. You know, Connor mentioned it, Jordan Pickford, and you know, I don't like swearing on the podcast, but I feel it's a football term, shithousery. He's an absolute, you know, master at it. You know, you look at the water bottle with all the bits and bobs on it, the face pulling. He said that he wasn't even allowed to, you know, do his usual routine by the referee and sort of slow it down and hand the ball to the players. Interesting, I don't know if anybody's noticed the pictures of him after the game. He doesn't actually slick his hair back. It was also at the front and looked a bit sort of, again, he's going to get looks like we're getting paid to see his name, an Anthony Gordon sort of style. Almost like he looks like he gets into character when he goes onto the pitch.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah, I absolutely love him. You know, he's like you said, he's just. I joke around with mates watching the game. Like, he looks like he's on something, doesn't he? Like, I'm not trying to, like, you know, throw accusations his way.
Tom's opinion and Tom's opinion alone.
Yeah, but he's just like, he's so pumped up, and yeah, I just love how he's so kind of vocal as well to the defence. You know, any kind of little slip up or mistake, or, you know, a bit of a loose ball, or, you know, he's straight on him. He doesn't care who it is. You know, there's no kind of, you know, in terms of pecking order where he'll just go straight for him and tell them, you know, what they've done wrong and give them a rollicking. And yeah, this is the biggest plus point for me was, you know, the penalty shootout, because, you know, we've not been playing well. We've been grinding these games out, lots of draws. You know, they've been going now to extra time and now to penalties. And yeah, we've been so poor at penalties, you know, for a long, long time now. But yeah, it seems that we've not only got some players who, you know, are capable of stepping up and slotting them away, you know, like you guys have been saying, just really kind of calm and composed under pressure. But I think we've got, you know, top goalkeeper as well, who's come under some stick, you know, from England fans, and probably a little bit from myself in the past, you know, about the height thing. And, you know, he was a little bit, you know, there was always a kind of mistake in him, wasn't there? But he's just been absolutely fantastic this tournament. You know, I don't think he's put a foot wrong, you know, even in that game where he nearly got...
On a personal level for him, sorry to jump across, do you think that he needs to move away from Everton for that next step? Do you think that's where some of that criticism comes, that he's a goalkeeper for a team that's down the bottom all the time?
I don't think it matters with a goalkeeper. I think if you're playing, I honestly think, you know, him playing in the Premier League for a team like Everton, you know, he's probably getting more shots and, you know, coming at him, and he's doing a lot more than the goalkeepers at the very top would be, to be honest. I don't see that as a problem, to be honest with you. And, you know, I think, you know, one of the reasons he's Southgate's number one, you know, for a long period of time now, is just because of how good his distribution is. You know, you'd maybe think, you know, under someone like Sean Dyche that, you know, you know, his distribution wouldn't necessarily be an asset of his, but he's so good at, you know, just, you know, getting the ball out quickly and making passes short into midfield, long, out of his hands. You know, he does just keep getting better and better, in my opinion. And yeah, I just love his antics, because it's just like the cherry on the top, really. You know, he's got such personality, and I think, you know, you don't get, we've spoken about this lots of times, you know, I think characters and personalities are becoming a bit of a thing of the past in football, but definitely think Pickford's one of the few remaining ones. But I think you make a good point. I think he won't, if he carries on playing like he is, I think he will get a big move at some point, because he's good enough for sure, you know, and he's proven that in this tournament so far.
Nice bit of statage came out before we came on, so I thought I'd bring it up. It's based on goalkeepers that played more than 10 games at European Championships, best save percentages in Euros history. Jordan Pickford only beaten by one Iker Casillas. He actually tops Gigi Buffon and Edwin van der Sar, which is quite astounding. He's got 85%, Buffon 81%, and then Casillas on 87%. So it's quite, you know, a steamed company, Connor, that he's keeping up there.
I mean, it doesn't get better than that. I think if you were to, you know, put together a list of the top 5-10 goalkeepers of all time, every single one of those names would be near the top of that list. Maybe I'm slightly surprised that Emmanuel Neuer isn't featured there. You'd feel like he's probably done quite well. Often referred to as one of, if not the best goalkeeper currently. But yeah, it is, and it shows how well he's doing. And I think the thing is, as Tom touched on when he's at Everton, when he's facing loads of shots, but he's able to switch it up when he goes on international duty because he doesn't face, the same level of attacking threat and shots that he will playing for Everton, because most of the countries England will play that they're better than, so they'll dominate most games. And I think the fact he's able to change that up and still stay sharp and pull off saves when he's required just shows how good a goalkeeper that he is, because that's not an easy thing to do. Trust me, I've played in games where you're standing there for 50 minutes, an hour, 70 minutes, not really having to do much other than a few kickouts here and there where a ball goes wide. And I think keeping yourself on your toes and keeping sharp and ready, it's all about the mentality, and he's got that, in spades. And as I say, I like that from my goalkeepers. I like a bit of personality, because quite often goalkeepers get overlooked, I feel, in terms of their importance in a game, because it's not usually the goalkeeper scoring the winning goal, but sometimes you get moments like the Portugal goalkeeper Costa got in the incredible penalty shootout where he saved 3 penalties in a row, the first time any goalkeeper's ever done that at the Euros, like Pickford rightfully gets as well with some of his performances. It shows the importance of these guys, because there's definitely in this tournament been instances where Pickford has certainly helped bail England out once or twice with some of the shots he's had to deal with.
Listen, as well, it must be said that it's the first time England have ever scored all 5 of their penalties in a penalty shootout, so it bodes well. Listen, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. I know we're pushing for time. We did start a little bit late, so I won't keep you up too late tonight. But just on Gareth Southgate, Zara Mayy, because the tide seems to have turned. I can remember, wasn't so long ago, England fans were singing a song to the tune of Atomic Kitten. I had them right up there. People were wearing waistcoats everywhere they went. It was quite the time for Gareth. Now it's not so great. He's came out and as a quote, he said, "This job is where you get ridiculed and your professional capability is questioned beyond belief." I don't think it's normal to have beer thrown at you either. But unfortunately, my life's taken me through a lot of resilience building, and it's made me more determined, and I'm just using it as a fuel. It does seem to be a bit of a siege mentality from Gareth Southgate now. You do feel this is going to be his last hurrah. And if he does go out winning it, he's going to be sort of going out giving it the V signs, as it were.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The England, the job he has, it can't be easy, and he is a human being, so getting stuff thrown at him probably, it's definitely not the right thing to be doing anyway. But I think there's a lot of fuel to frustration from England fans because of the way he's been kind of going into this tournament. Again, like we touched on the reactive sub, why he's not doing it earlier. I think a lot of us have those questions, and none of us really understand his way of doing things. That's the problem. I think a lot. I wasn't expecting us the way we've been performing. I wasn't expecting us to get this far. It kind of does make you think, though, if we do get to the finals, or will he stay? I don't know. It is sounding like he's going to leave anyway.
Do you want him to stay? That's the question. If he wins it, would you keep him?
No.
There's a narrative here to be said that he's the only manager to take them to so many stages of tournaments, and people haven't done this since pre him and etc. So there's a lot of stat pad to back it, but you just feel kind of like the general election that the polls would tell you that he's not really flavour in the month.
Yeah, I think the thing is as well, I feel like he's been overly cautious with the subs and stuff. He isn't really taking those risks and chances that you need to take as a manager in these sorts of games. He's he's starting Kane, Palmer. It's not really to do with performance at this point. It's kind of who he feels comfortable with playing in those positions when there are quality options on the bench to come on. So I would like to see someone new for sure for the next tournament, but we'll see. We'll see how far he can take us in this one.
Tom, you've been very vocal about Gareth Southgate, so I just want to get your thoughts on this. And it does seem to me that he is. I don't know if he does all of this going on in camp where he's saying, "Look, come on, let's go out and prove these guys wrong."
Yeah, I think with Southgate, I'm lagging a bit. Am I lagging a bit?
No, you're okay, mate. Carry on.
I'm all right. It's lagging a bit for me. Like I said, mate, anyway, Southgate, yeah. I tell you what, I saw Darren Bent was interviewed today on TalkSport, and I thought he's kind of summed it up brilliantly, to be honest. And he said, like, look, he was, what you were saying, Rob, in that, he's the first England manager to make X amount of semi-finals and quarter-finals back-to-back and this, that and the other. But the brunt of it is this, mate. This is another golden generation of England players. And for me, I'm very much on the side of the fence where that won't mean anything. It won't mean anything if this generation of players passes. Southgate's time in charge with these players passes and we haven't won anything. That's the way I look at it, mate. That might seem a little bit harsh, but I think the vast majority of England fans are probably on the same wavelength in that, say we lose to the Dutch or we go into the final and we lose the final, we've not won anything. Southgate goes, we've not won anything under Southgate. I don't think there'll be many fans kind of a few years in the future going, looking back at Southgate's reign, brilliant, did really well. We made X amount of quarterfinals, X amount of semi-finals. They'll be looking back going, look at the players he had at his disposal. Look at the other countries, and the players they had available to him, the kind of state they were in. What a massive opportunity was missed. That's honestly what I think the majority of England fans are going to be thinking. And I think, 2000 and the last Euros where we lost the final to Italy, I thought that was a massive missed opportunity because I thought the Italians were there for the taking. But I genuinely believe this is an even better opportunity to win a tournament because I genuinely believe the only team really that has kind of looked top tier is Spain. France have looked even worse than ourselves. France have really kind of bundled their way to the semi-finals. The Dutch have looked good in their last couple of games, but they do look vulnerable also. They've had some goals put past them, especially earlier on in the tournament. This is a massive opportunity, for England to win some silverware since '66. And I genuinely believe that if Southgate is brave with his decisions and makes a few necessary changes, we could go on and win this. But this is the worry, and I think the vast majority of England fans are feeling the same. Is that we don't think Southgate will necessarily do that. He'll stick with his favourites, and it's very likely that we're going to fall short just again. And I think it would be I think it'll be absolutely fantastic for Southgate if he can win this tournament and then call it quits, because then I think you could look back on it as a really successful period as England manager. You've nearly got there a couple of times and then you finish by winning something. That'll be fantastic. But if he doesn't, I know it seems harsh, like Zara said, like it is such a difficult job being England manager. There's no middle ground. You're either a hero or a villain. But I do think if he doesn't win anything, if he doesn't win this tournament and he goes, he will be seen as the villain. I honestly do.
Yeah, I don't think you could be far wrong. He's not far off at the minute. Connor, let's just turn our attention finally to the game itself on Wednesday. It's the Dutch. The big news broke today that Felix Zveer, I hope I've said his name right, has been appointed as the man in the middle for this one. Zveer actually banned from football for accepting a €300 bribe to match fix in 2005. You've got to question how this man's even been allowed to let alone officiate again, but officiate at this level.
It does seem a bit
Connor's loving it. Don't lie, Connor. You're loving it, man.
I'm just disappointed they never came to me about Gareth Southgate. But no, I think it's a bizarre one. But then at the same time, you're talking 19 years ago, 2005, which does make me feel old. I think times change. Maybe clearly he's obviously got back in again and he's served his punishment and he's obviously not done anything or not been caught doing anything since then. So that's what's got him here. I would say clearly there are other referees you could have appointed, top tier referees that have been involved throughout the Euro. So I don't know why why he gets such a big game as that. But I mean, at the end of the day, if the teams go out there and do their job, then the referee should be a non-entity in the game. He shouldn't have an effect on it materially at all if you do your job properly. And the one thing I would say, as far as this game goes, it's a massive test of Gareth Southgate, because I'll tell you this right now, Gareth Southgate has had, I believe, 25 or 26 attempts at playing teams within the top 10 in the world rankings. He's won about 5. That's a shocking record. You know, that's where the cliche comes in, where people always say, England are good until they play somebody just as good as them and they lose, because that is what happens under Southgate more often than not. And that's been happening. You know, you look at the World Cup, I've said it before, the guy must have 4-leaf clovers, horseshoes, rabbit's feet, because the luck he gets with draws is exceptional. He's not had a hard group at all in any of these competitions. The only time he did, I think, was it in the Russia in 2018, I think it was, they had Belgium in the group. Notably, that was the only game in the group they lost. And then, of course, played Belgium again in the third place playoff match and lost again. You know, he has had incredible luck with these draws, and then because of that, he's been able to get easier paths. Now, that's not to diminish the achievement of getting to semi-finals and quarter-finals, but you're going to have a real problem convincing people when you're beating teams that you should beat. I mean, the World Cup, he beat Panama, Tunisia, Turkey, Colombia, and Sweden. England should beat those teams. There's a problem if they don't. So that makes this a massive test, because he can prove people wrong. He's got to now beat 2 teams in the top 10 if he's going to win it. He's got to beat the Dutch, and then he's got to beat either France or Spain. Do that, and as Tom says, then maybe he does become a bit of a hero, and he can silence some of those critics who say that he can't get the job done when it comes to the big occasion.
He's going to dive in there. Come on, what were you going to say?
All I was going to say was, even though I agree with everything Connor said, I just felt like I had to just jump in there and defend Southgate because there was a Scotsman going at him. Do you know what I mean? I just like...
Listen, I
felt like just some sort of like, English pride. I just had to get in there and defend him, even though every word he said was true. You know what I mean?
I had to laugh when Connor was talking about the referee not mattering as long as the players were playing or knew their jobs. The 2 English fans were on the red. But I tell you now, on Wednesday night, if the Dutch get a penalty and you lose 1-0, you'll be on here shouting about match fixing, 100%. Okie dokie. We've put a good shift in there. It's been an absolute roller coaster of a podcast, I must say. Just before we go, I was going to go round you all and try and get a wee prediction for Wednesday. Actually, we'll do both semis. Actually, seeing as there's only a couple of games. So, Zara, I'll come to you first. Spain v France, and then England v the Dutch, if you will.
I think Spain's going to easily walk away from that game. I reckon it'll be a. I want to say 3-1. I reckon Spain's going to have it, and then England. I think Netherlands. They're going to be hard to play against. I think they've got the same mentality. They came back from 1-0 down as well, so. I reckon it might be. I'll have to back England, but 2-1 win.
Well, I'll come to you next, Connor. Actually, we'll save the big man for last. Connor, if you can give us a wee snippet for both games.
Well, first and foremost, quite simply because they're going to win the tournament, as I told you at the start. Spain will beat France. I think that will go the distance. So I think Spain will win that one 2-1 in extra time. Much like they did against the Germans. I think with England, there's what my heart tells me I want to happen, and there's what my head says probably will. My heart says...
Let's go your head.
Well, aye. My heart says 4-0 to the Dutch, but that's probably just wishful thinking. My head says, I think 2-2, England win 5-4 on penalties again.
Right then, Tom. Final word from you. Let's have it.
Yeah, I agree with these two. I think Spain, they've been the best team in the tournament for me. I've been impressed every time I've watched them, and I think they're the only team that's like really kind of hit the levels, that are expected of a top team. So, yeah, I want to go for Spain to beat France 2-0. The French have offered very little. So, I think they're going to kind of finally coming up against someone good now. So yeah, I want to go for Spain to win comfortably against France. And then England, look, like I said, I think if he brings Tony and Palmer in from the off, I reckon we can beat the Dutch, in 90 minutes. I genuinely do believe that, but I also genuinely believe that he won't bring Tony and Palmer in for, Kane and Foden. I think he'll go with the same team that started against the Swiss. And if he does, I think it'll be a close one. And I agree with Connor. I think it could go all the way again. I think it could go to a penalty shootout. Squeaky bum time, once more. But after that penalty shootout against the Swiss, I'd be confident of us doing it again and getting through to the final. So England on penalties.
You have to say, penalties seem to be the one that draws in the punters. I think that the BBC audience peaked at 16.8 million, which is incredible viewing, really. Okay, then, that has been a really, really good shift. We are back on Wednesday. Something a little bit different. We're going to do a build-up and then a match reaction immediately after full time. So do join us for that. If you're watching on Catch Up, like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us what we're doing right, tell us what we're doing wrong. But yeah, my thanks to Tom, late sub Connor, brilliant as always, and Zara Mayy, thanks very much as well. We will be back, as I say, on Wednesday, so do get involved then as well. But no, thanks very much for your time, and we'll see you again on the other side.